Zico was a wonderful husband and loved me dearly. Until he brought his ex-girlfriend's child and begged me to adopt it. He even asked my 4-year-old son to give up his bedroom. "Let your sister live there, okay? You're the older brother." I laughed in anger. I immediately threw his and the girl's belongings out the door and changed the locks. "The number you dialed is currently busy. Please try again later." The mechanical beep echoed through my phone for the 3rd time, and I felt a sudden surge of panic. In 5 years of marriage, Zico had never lost touch with me. Even when he was in a meeting and couldn't answer the phone, he'd always text me back. Alex's preschool is having a sports day today, and at least one parent is required to accompany their child. My mom has been feeling unwell for the past couple of days, and I'm staying with her in the hospital. Zico said he'd take some time off to go. I just went downstairs with my mom to get some fresh air. I left my phone in the hospital room to charge. When I came back, I saw several missed calls from the kindergarten. The teacher said all the kids in the class had parents accompanying them to the game, but Alex didn't see his dad, so he just cried while hugging his football. Perhaps because Zico and I give him so much love and attention, Alex is usually very sensible. He cried so hard today because Zico promised to help him win first place in the football competition, but he broke his promise. In the taxi to the kindergarten, I was still trying to contact Zico, but the call was unanswered. Just as my thoughts were running wild, a colleague from his company replied. "Sister-in-law, Zico took annual leave and hasn't been to the office for the past few days. Is everything okay at home?" I repeatedly edited and deleted the content in the input box. I didn't know how to respond to this simple greeting. Earlier this year, Zico said that he wanted to save his annual leave and wait until our 6th wedding anniversary at the end of the year to go abroad for a trip as a family of 3. Why had he suddenly taken annual leave without telling me? When I contacted my in-laws and learned they had no idea what was going on, I gripped my phone tightly, sweat forming. Could something have happened to Zico? The traffic announcements in the taxi and the real-time push of local news made me feel anxious. The sports meet had not yet ended, and the laughter and encouragement of children and parents echoed throughout the campus. At the kindergarten entrance, Alex, clutching a soccer ball, followed the teacher with his head lowered. When he heard my voice, he rushed over, tears welling in his eyes. "Alex's mom, is everything okay?" the teacher said, rubbing Alex's head with a worried look on her face. I shook my head, thanked him, and took Alex into a taxi. "Mom, tell Dad that it's okay if I don't get first place." Alex, not seeing his dad, thought he'd made an unreasonable request. I held him in my arms and whispered words of comfort, my voice trembling unnoticed. For 2 hours after arriving home, I didn't change my shoes or drink any water. I just sat on the bench in the hallway, watching the sunlight creep away from my feet. Ding! It was the sound of the door lock sensor. "Daddy!" Alex rushed over, holding a toy. I jumped up suddenly, my head pounding, but I still took a step towards the door. I wanted to make sure Zico was okay. When my vision cleared up, I finally saw Zico's fawning smile. It wasn't directed at my son and me, who had been terrified all afternoon, but at the little girl in his arms. "Bella, this will be your new home from now on." I held on to my son until the light in the room dimmed a few degrees. Zico's gaze finally turned towards me, gentle and apologetic. "Yara, this is Bella, Callie's daughter." The darkness swallowed me up before the sun set outside the window. I looked at the girl, unable to muster a friendly smile. Callie, my senior at YITA, had a photo of her and Zico printed in the school publication. She was Zico's ex-girlfriend, whom he had been in love with for many years. My 4 years at YITA were almost entirely spent listening to the love story of Zico and Callie. Countless girls imagined them as the protagonists of romance novels. They were from the same hometown, from modest families, yet they encouraged each other to get into the prestigious YITA. Zico, the more successful student, was willing to give up a better university for Callie. Callie, meanwhile, repeatedly rejected the advances of wealthy second-generation men during her college years, devotedly devoting herself to Zico. This enviable couple, however, couldn't escape the breakup season of graduation. Callie applied for a scholarship abroad, and Zico stayed in Yida University for graduate studies. The two broke up peacefully, but no one dared to mention Callie's name in front of Zico again. When I was at Yida, I succeeded Zico as president of the debate club. Internally, he was my strongest rival, and externally, I could also be his strongest supporter. I don't know when it started, but I've always avoided being alone with Zico. Whenever we need to discuss something, we'll always create a small group. Even during debates, I'll give up my second debater seat next to him and sit at the back. The boundaries of our friendship were so clear that I built a wall of ice in my heart, a barrier that endured neither cold nor heat. Once we crossed campus, we would become two parallel lines that never intersected. It wasn't until the alumni reunion the year after graduation that the members of our club started to clamor for us to be a couple. It was a very crowded and chaotic day. When I was pushed into Zico's arms, the smell of alcohol collided with my heart, and the wall of my heart melted into a thin piece of ice, which was then shattered by two heartbeats that were so fast that they were difficult to control. Callie seemed to be the most obscure page in Zico's world. He was troubled and confused about it for a long time, until he turned the page and his stagnant life started to catch up at double speed. Zico's brothers made a bet on what kind of woman would help him get over his heartbreak. They decided it had to be a Rose more passionate than Callie. It turned out that Zico was after me. Zico would queue up before dawn to bring the first stuffed pancake out of the oven from Grandma's house. When I was stuck in the bathroom during my period, he would skip work to buy all kinds of sanitary napkins and ask the aunt to deliver them to me. He would also write wishes starting with my name on the prayer boards in the temple. He would kiss me whenever he felt happy, for a cup of coffee with too much sugar in it, or the way my skirt swirls in the autumn breeze. Zico proposed to me when the roses were in full bloom all over the city. It was as if he was saying that he would never regret losing a single rose again. But leaving is not the real loss, death is. Callie divorced and returned home with her daughter. She was proud and stubborn. Unable to bear the gossip in her hometown, she drove drunk and got into an accident. The sun had already sunk below the horizon. Zico and I each occupied a corner of the dim bedroom, neither of us remembering to turn on the light. Yara, Callie's husband, doesn't care for the kids, and her mother isn't in good health, so I'm the only one who can help. Just let the child stay with us, okay? I promise that you and Alex are the most important in my heart. I tried to see Zico's face clearly, to know whether he was simply feeling sorry for the child who had lost his mother or because he loved the child because of his mother when he made this request to me. But I couldn't see anything, only a pair of arms in the darkness trying to embrace me. Zico. I took a step back and whispered the name, suddenly feeling unfamiliar and uncomfortable. Alex waited at the school gate for a long time today, holding a football. Even after the championship trophy was lifted, you didn't show up. I just want to ask you one thing now, is this child related to you? Bella was a bit older, and probably dated me around the time Zico was pursuing me. Thinking back to that alumni reunion, when I was pushed together with the drunk Zico, I vaguely saw Callie in the noisy and laughing crowd. At that time, her wedding abroad was less than a week away. Zico, under the guise of drunkenness, kissed me in public, not to say goodbye to the past. He knew Callie was watching and wanted to reassure her. The funny thing was, I mistook the performance for a heartfelt emotion and fell apart. The moment the lights came on inside, I saw the embarrassment on Zico's face, which he couldn't hide. Yara, it really was Callie's mother, Sarah, who asked me to do that. My aunt and the neighbors chipped in the money so I could go to college any city. I closed my eyes and understood everything. Zico is the best debater. He can draw inferences from one example to another and make his opponents surrender. He just dodged my question, like a stage-frightened contestant. Zico, I don't want an ambiguous answer. Take her to the hospital for an evaluation. As for us, I opened the door, raised the corner of my mouth to the two children standing at the door, and then pulled Alex out. Wait until the appraisal report comes out, then we can talk. Zico was about to catch up, but was tripped by Bella's crying. I stood in the elevator, and as the doors were about to close for the third time, I grabbed Alex's hand and pressed the open button again. My son stood on tiptoe, peering through the crack in the door toward home. But his wait was doomed to fail. Zico was busy comforting the other children. Whenever I thought about Bella and Zico's relationship, it was like an invisible rope was strangling me, causing me to ache all over. I breathed carefully until my tense and trembling body calmed down. Alex, Dad's busy these days, let's go back and spend some time with Grandpa. When Dad saw me bringing Alex home, he didn't ask any questions. He even cooked our favorite dandan noodles that night. I felt relieved to have him take care of Alex while he slept. I stayed with Mom at the hospital until almost dawn, then went home for a nap. When the alarm clock rang, I sat up in shock. My father's voice came in. Alex's father came to pick up the child from school early in the morning. Yara, you should sleep a little longer. Zico's willingness to make amends softened the hardened expression I'd had when I first heard his name. As long as his heart and actions remained loyal to me and our family, I could give him a chance. I took a nap and woke up just as my dad was coming back from the hospital. He then remembered to tell me that Zico had come back from dropping off Alex that morning, carrying some fruit and milk, and had been standing outside the door waiting for me to open it. My parents lived in the company's housing complex, on the second floor. Neighbors could see Zico and the little girl he led, and they kept talking about them. My dad's face turned pale when he talked about the girl. Did he give birth to that girl outside? I shook my head. I didn't want to burden my parents with any more worry before the results came back. Dad breathed a sigh of relief, leaned back in his chair, and asked about the whole story. Kind-hearted old people always sympathize with children who have lost their mothers. But Dad also knew that my refusal to adopt wasn't due to my inherently mean nature. Has Zico been having feelings for someone else all these years? I kept thinking about this all night, afraid to even think about it. But Dad finally pointed it out. I should have been more certain that Zico hadn't been in touch with Callie in all those years. Even at class reunions, when someone mentioned her recent situation, Zico would pull me over to the other side for a drinking contest. Our phones were completely open to each other, and he certainly didn't have any contact information for Callie. And back in college, after Callie added me on WeChat in the debate club, she'd always blocked me from her moments. But just because we weren't in touch didn't mean I didn't miss her. What if Callie still loved Zico? What if Zico had known about Bella all along? Every frame of tenderness and happiness from the past 5 years with Zico flashed through my mind. Suddenly, they clamored, shattered, revealing the coldness behind them. I crossed my arms and screamed, and when I came to my senses, I was sweating profusely. Dad was nervously trying to chase away the people outside, afraid that they would upset me. Zico heard my voice and banged on the door, asking anxiously. My emotions, uncontrollable as never before, left me momentarily bewildered. It took a long time before I could hear my own calm voice. I asked my father to call Zico and the child in. I had to face the problem and could not avoid it. One thing was clear, if I wanted to keep my marriage with Zico, I would never accept Bella. Her presence constantly reminded me how much Zico loved another woman before me. Every moment I spent with Zico from now on, I would be distorted by suspicion and distrust. Zico's voice, fawningly greeting Dad, echoed through the doorway, along with a girl's sweet grandpa. Don't hit someone smiling, and Dad couldn't keep a straight face anymore. I looked away, preparing my speech, ready to calmly win this battle with Zico, just like in the debate club. Zico, where are you going? Yara is waiting for you. I turned around suddenly and saw my dad standing alone at the door, with fruits rolling on the ground at his feet. Without changing my shoes, I rushed downstairs to stop Zico, who was about to drive away. He was very anxious, and the bloodshot in his eyes was about to burst. Grandma Bella's not feeling well and just got admitted to the hospital. I have to go see her. Yara, get out of the way. I froze for a few seconds at the child's shrill cry. Just as I was about to back away, Zico's car started. The bumper scraped past my knee, leaving a burning pain. The car turned the corner and disappeared from sight, as if Zico had been completely taken away from my life. I stood there, suddenly feeling empty. My mother had been in the hospital for almost a month, and as her son-in-law, had Zico ever been so anxious? Callie might have been left in the past, outside of time, but Zico had never forgotten her. She was always there, invisible and intangible, filling every blank moment of our 5 years together. Even more disorienting than completely losing Zico was the thought that perhaps I never had him. Zico must have been busy taking care of Sarah and finding a school for Bella. During this time, I was also busy and didn't take the initiative to contact him, nor did I reply to his daily goodnight messages before bed. Mom recovered and was discharged from the hospital. To avoid worrying her, Dad and I kept it a secret, saying we were worried about her health and were staying for a few days. When I brought Alex home to pack some clothes, Zico wasn't home. My son cheered when he was allowed to bring a few more toys, but when I turned to pack clothes in the master bedroom, I heard Alex crying. I threw down the folded clothes and rushed out to see that the space gray and blue children's room that belonged to Alex had been decorated in a uniform pink. From the curtains to the carpet, from the 4-piece set to the toy display, everything was changed to a princess-themed style favored by girls. It went without saying that Zico was going to give this room to Bella. Alex couldn't find her favorite toys and pillowcases, so she hugged my legs and sobbed until her body shook. I pinched my palms, suppressing my anger. I finally calmed Alex down, grabbed my phone, hid on the balcony, and called Zico. Alex is a man. He'll definitely give up the south bedroom to his sister. Yara, don't make a fuss. It's just a room change. Wait until I get back. Just a room change? I didn't listen to Zico's explanation and hung up. Alex was lying on the sofa, hugging a toy he'd found in a large cardboard box in the study. He'd fallen asleep with tear marks on his cheeks, and his mouth was pouting, looking extremely aggrieved. He's not a man. He's only 4 years old and hasn't learned to turn off his favorite cartoons. How can he be so generous as to give up his familiar room and his father to someone else? I picked up the dolls scattered around the living room one by one until I walked into the kitchen. I opened the refrigerator and found neatly stacked bags of traditional Chinese medicine. Even before I took a sip of the brown liquid, the bitterness seemed to rise from my heart and spread throughout my body. When planning our future as newlyweds, Zico and I had a disagreement about having children. He likes girls and wants to spoil her like a little princess and give her the best of everything. Although Alex is a son, he looks like me, which makes Zico, a new father, very excited. He personally decorated the children's room for a boy. Zico said that if he had a daughter in the future, he would let Alex live in the study, and he wanted to reserve the best sunlight on the south side for his beloved daughter. To help Zico achieve his wish, I consulted a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner and took care of his health. I used to have trouble swallowing pills, but now I can take them without a frown. I even lied to Zico, saying they were just for his stomach, just to give him a surprise. Now, he's saving his best sunshine for Bella. If my daughter were here, how aggrieved would she be? In silence, I numbly tore open bags of Chinese medicine and poured them out, letting the brown liquid swirl and disappear in the sink. Then I made a phone call. Hello, Master, we need to change the door lock here. I put Bella's things and Zico's spare clothes at the door. When he brought Bella back, he should have found that he couldn't get into the house. I informed Zico that my mom had just recovered from her illness and that the stairs to the second floor of the old family compound were still a bit difficult to climb, so I planned to bring them home to stay for a while. My parents would stay in the master bedroom, and Alex and I would naturally take the second bedroom. Before Zico could even mention Bella moving to the study, I took the initiative. Zico, Bella wouldn't feel right living in the north study without sunlight. Go find her a south-facing apartment. Zico was silent for a moment on the other end of the phone before agreeing. My parents were originally going to pay for the down payment on our wedding house, but Zico insisted on writing an IOU. Zico works for a foreign company, earning a good salary and being promoted to department manager 2 years ago. Over the years, he's not only paid off the down payment, but also made payments on the mortgage while I was caring for Alex full-time. Zico actually had more say in the apartment, But he gave in and rented a 2-bedroom apartment near the company for Sarah and Bella, while he himself lived in the company dormitory. It's hard to say whether the disappointment in his heart further increased. Zico's concession didn't give me the slightest taste of victory. Debates have winners and losers, but debates don't. Just like marriages have winners and losers, but in relationships, failure never belongs to just one person. I've mentioned my desire to open a shop to Zico several times recently, but he hasn't taken it seriously. These days, I've been scouring the area around Yida before finally settling on this small shop, which has the right location, size, and rent. Halfway through the renovation, I discovered the foreman had cut corners, using private label panels with significantly elevated formaldehyde levels. Seeing I was the only woman on site, he threatened me verbally, trying to force me to compromise. These bastards have no respect for contracts or the law. I had no choice but to contact Zico. Subconsciously, I kept thinking, Zico and I are on the same page, and there's nothing we can't solve. The developers who undercut the standards, the rude and disturbing neighbors, the unscrupulous kindergartens were all our foes. But I didn't hear Zico's voice until the foreman snatched my phone away and threw it to the ground. When we got married, he said he'd always be the first to rush to my defense, but now he can't even answer a single call. He's really busy. The foreman and his men cornered me in the shop, tore up the contract, and used tools and scraps of sheet metal to repeatedly bang on the paint bucket next to me, trying to force me to pay the balance. I summoned the courage to continue defending my rights, but I inadvertently angered them. Smash the store and teach the boss a lesson. Didn't you want to call for help just now? Let's see who dares to meddle in my business. After the foreman yelled, he was about to grab my arm. Suddenly, a tall man rushed in from outside the store. Before I could even see him clearly, he had already pushed the foreman aside and forcefully shielded me behind him. I grabbed the man's clothes, my heart beating rapidly. I almost shouted Zico's name, but then let go in frustration. It wasn't him. It couldn't possibly be him. The man, one man, led 5 people until the police finally arrived. The construction team was taken away on suspicion of provoking a disturbance. After taking his statement, he realized, half-consciously, that he had returned to the store entrance. The man followed quietly beside them. He looked to be about 24 or 25, his metal glasses giving him a scholarly air. One would never have guessed that just 2 hours ago, he had stood up to several bastards and not suffered any loss. As I was taking his statement, I remembered his name was Billy, a third-year graduate student at Yida University. Billy, thank you for today. I'll buy you coffee when the shop opens. Looking at the mess inside, I sighed, fearing I wouldn't be able to make it to the scheduled opening hours. I rolled up my sleeves and was about to pick up the scraps on the floor, but someone beat me to it. Billy took off his jacket, put his glasses in his pocket, and casually picked up a coat and put it on. Seeing my confusion, he pointed to the job posting on the door and smiled. Boss, I'm here to apply for a job. My study cafe finally opened. With Billy helping out, I had more free time to care for Alex. On the 3rd day, Zico called and wanted to talk. Thinking that Zico had been putting off the paternity test for so long, it was time for him to give me an explanation, so I texted him the address of the coffee shop. When I dropped Alex off at school, Zico was already sitting by the window, having ordered 2 coffees. I looked at the dark liquid in the glass, pursing my lips to hide a hint of self-mockery. Zico was oblivious to this, he was staring out the window, eyes filled with nostalgia. It's been ages since I've been to Yida. Do you remember, Yara? This used to be a flower shop. The owner had a corgi that was so fat it couldn't even climb the 2 flights of stairs. Since I came to Yida, there have been restaurants, bookstores, and figurine shops here, but I've never seen flowers or corgis. Seeing Zico's gaze evade for a moment, I didn't force it and smiled frankly. I know that your memories of Yida are all related to Cali. Zico paused as he held the coffee. Even the most skilled debater couldn't refute the established facts so quickly. And he came to me, just to plead with me once again, in a despicable way, to adopt Bella with him. When I mentioned the identification, I could see Zico flinching from his expression. He was afraid. Yara, if Bella is really my daughter, will you divorce me? Zico said that the day before the alumni reunion, Callie unexpectedly returned to China and asked him to meet up that evening, but it wasn't to rekindle their old relationship. She and her fiancé had fallen on hard times in the early stages of their business, and she borrowed all the money I'd saved during graduate school. It turned out that Zico was already working on a project for a foreign company at that time. I naturally assumed that Zico, who had just graduated from graduate school and was getting married to me, would not be able to come up with the down payment. Little did I know that he had already loaned the money to Callie. Zico said he'd completely let go of Callie after that day. Okay, Zico. If it's proven you and Bella aren't related, we'll entrust her to the Yi family and we'll pay for her upbringing. I wanted to believe Zico and take a step back. Yara. Zico frowned. Callie's relatives are all in her hometown, and there aren't good educational resources there. And Bella might be your biological daughter. Callie divorced and returned home just to rekindle her relationship with you. Zico, are you very regretful now? I interrupted Zico, with a hint of aggression in my words. I waited for Zico to strike back, to convince me again and again with his words, just like in a debate. But this time, he simply conceded. Yara, don't be unreasonable. Zico slammed his coffee cup on the table. We're talking about Bella. I felt sad, and suddenly felt that such an opponent was quite boring. Zico, let me tell you clearly now that I absolutely do not agree to adopt Bella. If you insist, then we will divorce. Zico was stunned for a moment, then stood up to leave without saying anything. It was only when he was paying the bill that he learned from Billy that I was the owner. As he was leaving the store, he suddenly turned around and looked through the window. I couldn't tell if he was looking at me or reminiscing about the flowers and dog he had with Callie. The fleeting loneliness in him stretched out an endless road between us, making people feel discouraged. I opened my phone and pulled up Callie's account. I don't usually check my social media feed, so I hadn't noticed that Callie had already unblocked me. Every night lately, while I shared Alex's growth with him, Zico would casually glance at my phone. When Zico and I were describing our store plans, he was brooding over Callie's divorce and her loss of faith in love. When I was worried about my mom's illness, he was worried about Callie's. Friends, I'm back home. I couldn't sleep all night. The dullness of these days has caused the pain to come back like a prank, like a knife or a sword, scraping me all over. I picked up the coffee and drank it all, but the expected bitterness did not come. I know you don't like espresso, boss, so I secretly added double the sugar to that cup. It shouldn't be bitter, right? Billy came over, the apron casually wrapped around his waist making him look tall and straight, and he was holding a Kiko Higashino novel in his hand, looking unsatisfied. Someone I'd only known for a few days remembered my sweetness. But Zico had forgotten. Perhaps even earlier, when I no longer had to pinch my nose to take Chinese medicine, he took it for granted, assuming I'd gotten used to it and accepted it. But there are some things I will never, ever accept. Since our last meeting ended on bad terms, Zico and I haven't argued or been in a cold war. We're like a couple forced to live apart, updating each other on our lives online. I told him about Alex's performance at the kindergarten, and he explained that he was arranging Bella's school and the adoption process, and that he would hand over his salary to me as usual. However, I didn't immediately receive the 520 yuan in change in return like I used to. I was about to return the money, but then Zico messaged me. Tomorrow is Alex's birthday. Should I take Bella back to celebrate it? Alex has been looking for his dad these days, but I've been lying to him one lie after another. I feel guilty, but I can't do anything about the situation. Before going to bed, Alex kept talking about his dad's cola chicken wings. I tried to make them several times according to the recipe, but they all failed. After a moment's hesitation, I agreed and sent the door code to Zico. My parents had only been there for 2 days when they started complaining about not being able to get used to the idea of Euromoving back. Zico saw the empty room but didn't even mention moving Bella back. That evening, as soon as I picked Alex up, he smelled the scent of cola chicken wings. The child was open-minded and had no qualms with Bella, even sharing his toys with her. The girl preferred Barbie dolls and wasn't interested in playing with him, but Alex was still enthusiastic. I was collecting clothes from the balcony when I walked out to see the dining table already set. As I took in the dishes, the smile on my face faded as the heat in the air grew. Steamed crabs, assorted fried shrimps, crucian carp and tofu soup. Zico, my son doesn't like seafood and is afraid of crabs. Have you forgotten that? As soon as he finished speaking, Alex climbed onto the seat and saw the red crab claws facing his nose. He pursed his lips and his eyes turned red. But he was keenly aware of the tension between Zico and me in the restaurant. He didn't cry, but simply took my hand and sat me down. Zico put down the last of his stir-fried sea bass and suddenly remembered something, his face full of apology. Bella wanted to eat it, I glanced at my son, suppressed my anger, and moved the cola chicken wings in front of him. Unexpectedly, Bella suddenly screamed and dropped her chopsticks, startling Alex and me. Yara, Bella also likes to eat chicken wings. Let me get 2 plates to share. Zico was busy comforting Bella and taking away the chicken wings, but he didn't notice his son's lost look. Zico. I snatched the plate and put it in front of Alex. Today is Alex's birthday, not hers. How many times do you want me and my son to be disappointed in you? The restaurant fell silent, and Bella's crying became even more shrill. Dad, I want some cake. My son's soft voice gave Zico, who was awkwardly standing there, a chance to relax. He brought the cake and put candles on it. Seeing a smile on my son's face, I was about to breathe a sigh of relief when the doorbell rang. Zico hurriedly ushered in an auntie and seated her squarely at the head of the table. Yara, this is Sarah. I knew who she was, even without Zico introducing her. Seeing me sitting still, he quickly explained that Sarah hadn't met Alex yet and was there to celebrate his birthday. Because Zico's family isn't local, I rarely have relatives over to consider his feelings. They usually just visit my parents. Zico, on the other hand, brought Callie's daughter and mother home without even saying a word to me. So, would the next step be to bring back Callie's ashes so their family could be reunited? I held back, wanting to wait until after Alex's birthday to settle the score with Zico. But before Alex could finish his wish, Sarah blew out the candles first, just because she wanted to eat early. Yara, logically speaking, you and we have no relationship, so I am worried. Bella has been raised with great care since she was a child, unlike your little monkey. Fortunately, there's Zico, who treats Yara like his own daughter. But I have to make one thing clear, you can't force the child to call you mom. Her mom can only be my daughter. Pa. I put down my bowl and chopsticks heavily and looked at Sarah. Has that been enough? Since you're not here sincerely to celebrate your child's birthday, please leave. Sarah wants to intimidate me, but what right does she have? I don't owe Zico anything, so there's no reason for me to treat her like an elder. I don't owe the Yi family anything, and I let them come in and out of my house and harass my life. Zico, this is the wife you married. She even pushed Bella to do a paternity test. What's her intention? Sarah clearly considered herself half-mom to Zico, and it was she who had been trying to stop him from getting a paternity test. Zico was standing in the middle, begging me to be quiet. He was so worried about Sarah's health and Bella's mood that he didn't even notice Alex covering his ears and going back inside. My heart sank completely. I turned around and pulled out a divorce agreement from my bag and threw it at him. Zico, my son, and I don't need you anymore. And I glanced at Sarah, whose face was livid. I wasn't going to be taken advantage of. I reserve the right to reclaim the money they spent during this time as our joint property. Now please leave. After driving Zico and the other 2 away, he called me numerous times and sent me numerous apology voicemails. Zico didn't seem to realize I'd actually prepared a divorce agreement. But we're not children anymore. We can't just rely on shouting "the adults are here" to bluff and scare off our opponents. Zico and Callie's dispute ended the day before the alumni reunion, Callie returned to China and something happened. It was Sarah who contacted Zico. He really didn't cheat. Zico said that we would wait until I calmed down before discussing how to deal with Bella. He hoped that I would always be a calm and composed debater and that he would reason with me. But when he was with me, he probably forgot that roses also have thorns, even if they are softer and sparser, but I still retain them as the last line of defense. I will never compromise unilaterally. Zico sent Bella to one of the best full-time kindergartens in E-City. After get off work, he sometimes went to visit my parents and bought her a few sets of clothes or health products. Sometimes he would wait for Alex at the kindergarten gate with new toys. Every day there is a bouquet of roses sent to me at the doorstep. Zico wants to apologize and tell me in this way that he loves me and waits for me to calm down. He admitted that he had used my phone to spy on Callie's daily life, but when Callie returned to China and called him, Zico didn't answer and simply deleted the call log. Zico also promised to convince Sarah to take Bella for a paternity test and give me an explanation. Regardless of the results, he no longer insisted on adopting Bella. But at this point, does it matter whether he adopts or not? Even if Bella had nothing to do with him, she was still Callie's daughter. He kept talking about Sarah's financial support, but there were dozens of families in the village who contributed to his tuition. Would he still come? Callie and her husband's overseas business venture failed, draining Sarah's savings. She left in glory, returned in disgrace, and died prematurely, leaving Zico with a heart full of regrets. Regret isn't a crack that can be mended, its missing corner is a black hole that will render all the time and emotion I've invested in this relationship a blank. Even if I drain my entire life, it won't be able to fill it. But Zico was unwilling to sign the divorce agreement. And because Sarah was hospitalized again, he hadn't appeared in front of me for a long time. Business at the study cafe gradually became busier, and Billy's classmates and the debate club students helped me advertise it. After I picked up Alex from school, he would stay in the corner obediently. It had been a long time since he asked about his father. Children are sensitive, and he sensed the cold reception he received on his birthday. He now preferred to play with Billy. Billy taught him how to solve a Rubik's Cube and arithmetic, and the crafts they made in their spare time won first place in a kindergarten competition, earning Alex even more admiration for him. Alex wanted to put his handicraft on the display shelf in the store, but it was too high, and I couldn't reach it even on tiptoe. Just as he was about to move a stool, Billy came over and easily lifted Alex over his head. Alex arranged the work himself and clapped his hands with joy. I was afraid of tiring Billy out, so I tried to pick Alex up. But he turned around and, at Alex's command, dodged my grab. The usually quiet cafe was now filled with laughter and the sunlight inside seemed even warmer. Passers-by walked by the open window and casually praised us for being a happy family of 3. "Uncle, run. Mom is catching up." "Don't worry, Uncle will definitely not let your mom go." Billy said this, but he deliberately exposed a flaw, allowing me to grab his apron and snatch Alex away. Alex lost the game, but his face showed no disappointment. He stretched out his short arms towards Billy, wanting to play again. Hearing the chimes above the shop door chime, Billy and I turned to greet the newcomers, only to find Zico and Bella. Our smiles vanished. Coincidentally, Alex, uninhibitedly, said he wanted Billy to be his father, and Zico's eyes lit up with anger. Billy knew Zico, so he sent the child away when he tried to snatch him. "Yara, what kind of nonsense are you teaching your child? What's his relationship to you?" Faced with Zico's questioning, the twisted spring of grievance and torment finally buckled under, unleashing a powerful resistance. I pushed Zico hard. "Why don't you reflect on yourself? What were you doing when your child needed his company? Billy, you've only been helping me get rid of the scoundrels, helping me open this store, and picking up Alex when I'm busy. But what have you been doing these past few days?" Zico's eyes flickered, and before he could show any remorse, I turned my face away. I didn't want to see it, but I had seen enough. "Yara, I know I was wrong. What do you want me to do to forgive you?" The screeching of brakes outside interrupted Zico, and before we could react, Billy rushed out. My world went silent the moment I pushed open the door and walked out. Zico was panicking and yelling, Billy was nervously talking on the phone, Bella was sitting on the side of the road screaming, passers-by stopped and showed sympathy. Finally, there was Alex lying in front of the car, and the football rolled to his feet. The single crimson color nearly made the blood rush back through my body. Alex. No, Alex. Outside the emergency room, I stared at the blood on my finger. My body temperature continued to cool, and the unconscious trembling made my whole body sore and weak that I could hardly stand. Yara. Zico was the first to hold me up, but I slapped him back. I was too weak to give him pain or a lesson, and what about my son's blood? Passers-by at the scene said that Bella suddenly snatched the football from Alex and threw it into the busy road. Alex was hit by a car that failed to brake when he tried to pick up the ball. I glanced at Bella, who was crying beside Billy, her eyes swollen. My mind told me I shouldn't maliciously speculate on a child's intentions. But emotionally, I didn't like her and didn't want her to have any contact with Alex again. Zico, I can't forgive you. My eyes followed each family member who hurried by aimlessly. I was really scared. I didn't want to come to the hospital because of Alex again. If you insist on not signing, I will sue. When your presence is no longer conducive to Alex's healthy physical and mental growth, I will deprive you of your visitation rights at all costs. That football, it's the birthday present you gave him last year. It's badly worn out, and he's been reluctant to replace it. Do you remember what you promised? To buy him a new football for his birthday this year, but you forgot. Zico's hand, hanging by his side, suddenly slammed against the wall. He leaned his head against his arm, and only the corners of his red, wet eyes could be seen from the side. Fortunately, Alex's injuries were not serious. The surgery fixed the bones, and he only needed to stay in the hospital for a week of observation. Zico wanted to send Bella to Sarah first. Billy bought some food and stayed with me in the ward. Perhaps to distract me, he deliberately talked about some interesting things that happened when he first entered the school. At that time, there was an old man at Sheeman who loved to scam students. He got me hooked and I couldn't get away. Paying money was a small matter, I almost missed my exams. Then justice came from the heavens. A senior student, in just 3 minutes, had the old man blushing and running away in embarrassment. Billy even borrowed a pair of black-framed glasses and put them on while looking at me. Senior, did you remember anything? I nodded. No wonder he didn't take a part-time job with a higher salary. It turned out that he wanted to repay the favor I had done him many years ago. Billy said he'd watched all my debates online and even attended my wedding with a senior. I thought you and Zico were the perfect match. Are we a good match? Actually, it's not easy to do that. My parents' jobs kept me moving around, and I often had to transfer schools soon after making friends. I became introverted and quiet, and I didn't fit in at university. I happened to attend a campus debate competition and was captivated by the confident and powerful words of the first debater, Zico. I decided to make a change. When I first joined the debate club, my eloquence and thinking skills lagged behind, often dragging down the pace and drawing complaints from fellow club members. Given the pressure of persistence, quitting the club was undoubtedly the easier option. When my application to quit the society was rejected, Zico handed me a draft book. He stayed up all night to review the debate and revised my speech word by word, annotating it with experience and skills, which gave me the confidence to persevere. Later, Zico arranged for me to be the 4th debater without fear of opposition within the club. In the end, I withstood the pressure and held my ground, winning with him. With this victory, my life suddenly took a smoother turn. I became more confident, more willing to make friends, and more proactive. This may be why I fell in love with Zico. But if love itself is unconditional, then I can't say whether it really counts as love. I held Alex's hand, and suddenly remembered the heartbeats that collided with Zico's all those years ago. Whether it was due to a crush or drunkenness, it was hard for us to tell. Billy stood up and coughed twice, and then I realized Zico had returned. He had been standing at the doorway, and I had no idea how much I had heard. After Billy left, Zico came over and slowly crouched in front of me. He was tall, barely reaching my eye level, and the sadness hidden between his eyelids was exposed. "Yara, you hit me and scold me when you're angry. You said there's no love between us, then what is it? What else could it be?" I calmly pulled my hand back from his grasp and thought seriously. "Zico, I don't know." The day Alex was discharged from the hospital, Zico signed the divorce papers. He didn't fight for custody, and the house belonged to me. He no longer let Sarah boss him around, insisting on getting a paternity test first. If it was his responsibility, he wouldn't shirk it. But Sarah objects, even saying that letting Zico take care of Bella was Callie's last wish, which Zico finds difficult to get rid of. My study cafe went viral overnight thanks to a blogger's in-store video, becoming one of Esher's most popular check-in spots. My 2 full-time employees and I were often so busy that Billy, who was already interning at a company, would come in after get-off work to help out. Sometimes when he was busy late at night, he would heat a cup of milk for me, chat with me in the moonlight, and then carry the sleeping Alex on his back to take us home. I understood Billy's thoughts, but he listened to what I said in the hospital and didn't rush to express his attitude. "This is good, at least we all have enough time to make a choice." That day, Billy learned about Zico from the YITA alumni circle. Because the store was too busy, the divorce procedures and property division were completed smoothly, and we communicated regularly about Alex's growth issues, so I never realized that he was not living well. Sarah didn't treat herself as an outsider when she ordered Zico around, regardless of time or place. She even made a fuss and asked him to accompany her to the hospital when Zico was in an important meeting. Zico grows impatient with her behavior, and with a promotion looming, he repeatedly refuses. Sarah then storms into the office and starts a scene. A competitor seizes the opportunity, not only getting a promotion but also pushing Zico out of work. Sarah turned her attention to Zico's severance pay, asking him to sign Bella up for an expensive study tour. Zico, for once lucid, left the opportunity to Alex. When Zico's parents back home heard that our divorce was being dragged down by the Yi family's affairs, they were furious and slammed the door to the Yi family's house. Sarah couldn't find Zico, who had moved, so she came to confront Alex and me. When Zico arrived, I had just pulled out a paternity test report. "Bella, she's not your daughter." My voice seemed to instantly remove the shackles from Zico's body, bringing him a sense of relief. During this time, I asked a schoolmate to contact Callie's ex-husband. They were indeed divorced, but Bella was awarded to her ex-husband. Callie refused to accept the verdict and secretly took Bella back to China, but she unexpectedly got into a car accident. Sarah knew that if Bella went abroad with her biological father, she would have no one to rely on. At this time, she thought of Zico, the man who should have remembered her daughter Yara. She fabricated lies, claiming Callie's divorce was due to the child, obscuring Bella's background and opposing a paternity test. Unable to forget Zico, she even used her daughter's death to place a heavy shackle on him, attempting to secure a peaceful retirement for herself. But the truth is, Callie had several affairs abroad with a bartender, was addicted to alcohol, and even marijuana. As the party at fault, she was deprived of custody. I value evidence and facts. I've always been a powerful debater, leaving Sarah with no defense. Bella would soon be taken away by her biological father, no longer Zico's responsibility. And the bond between Zico and me, sparked by a debate, had come to a close. He taught me confidence, and I gave him back his freedom. He stood, but his shadow on the ground collapsed. During this time, his obsession and struggles had all been in vain. He had spent so much effort acting out his life, only to find it was just a script. Zico took a step closer to me, then hesitated before my blank gaze. His eyes were red, like a wrongly convicted criminal begging for a retrial. "Yara, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please forgive me." He forgot I said I would never forgive him. And Zico was never innocent. I didn't look back at Zico, who was crying bitterly behind me. From now on, I will try to look only forward. As for the past, no matter how vivid it once was, it will eventually fade, blur, and be forgotten under the scouring of time. Alex hadn't returned from his study tour yet, so I was home to spend time with my parents. "Daughter, you're all the rage in our neighborhood. Do you know why?" I woke up early this morning and was eating breakfast when my mom came home from her morning exercise and started to tell me all about it. "It's because of Zico." After Zico's friends learned about his recent situation through the alumni network, they invited him out for drinks. Instead of returning home, Zico got drunk and walked over 10 kilometers to my parents' compound. Seeing that he was so drunk and couldn't pronounce his door number, the security guard stopped him outside. Zico sat by the flower bed, and whenever someone passed by, he would mutter, "Yara, I'm sorry." That morning, the whole neighborhood was gossiping about Yara. Who was she? If he had any guts, he should have come and apologized formally. This whole thing is just a joke to the neighbors. Mom felt relieved, but a complex expression crossed her face. She still felt sorry for her son-in-law, who had fallen into such a state. Thankfully, Zico didn't really come to our house to cause us any trouble. He kept his distance, and during the weekly meetings with Alex, I never gave him any trouble. At the end of the year, I rented the adjacent shop and expanded the cafe. I stole a moment's leisure and looked back, and there was Zico. He'd been away for the past 6 months, picking up Alex from my house. I hadn't seen him in ages, and he'd lost a lot of weight. His old workout clothes looked baggy. Today wasn't supposed to be our meeting, but since Zico had brought Alex a gift, I didn't say anything. Alex looked at the brand new football, but he wasn't as interested as before. He put it on the counter and went back to playing with Lego. Alex has been interested in drawing and building models lately, and he also likes playing football at school. Seeing the disappointment in Zico's eyes, I explained casually. "How are you?" Zico kept rubbing his fingers, and I noticed there was a mark on his ring finger, as if he had just taken off his ring not long ago. "Pretty much. My parents are in good health, Alex is healthy and sensible, and the store is doing a booming business." I didn't go into details. When the waiter brought the coffee, Zico saw that I had an espresso in front of me and subconsciously wanted to get up to switch. As a result, he knocked over his briefcase, and a stack of resumes slipped out. I pretended not to see it and waited until he finished packing it up, then smiled. Once I get used to it, I like its rich taste. Sometimes, if it's too bitter, I add some sugar or milk. It's not always the same. I was talking about coffee, but Zico's eyes darkened, his voice rasping as if he'd thought of something. "Aren't you going to ask how I'm doing?" I stirred the spoon without answering, watching the dark liquid swirl, its rich aroma instantly filling my nose. When I looked up again, Zico had already left. Later that evening, Billy came into the store after get off work, put on his apron expertly, and began to clear the coffee cups from the table. He suddenly found a bunch of yellow roses next to the chair Zico had just sat on and brought them to me. "Who sent these flowers? Is today a special day?" I thought about it and then shook my head. Just then Alex called us to go and see the assembled Lego. Billy casually placed the bouquet on the bar. When he walked away and looked back, it was like a ray of sunshine, shining brightly in the dim light.